And tonight, on the second last week before the House of Commons rises for the holiday recess, I'm joined by three MPs from the different parties. Erin O'Toole is the Conservative MP for the Ontario riding of Durham and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of International Trade. Peter Julian is the NDP's House Leader, and he's the MP for Burnaby New Westminster. And Wayne Easter is the Liberal MP for the PEI riding of Malpeque. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. We have to start, ironically, or I don't know what the adjective is, but we have to start with the same subject that has dominated now for 3 weeks in a row, and that is Veterans Affairs and Minister Fantino. Erin O'Toole, there were calls all week long for the minister's resignation. The Prime Minister did not accept those calls, but there's been so much criticism from so many angles of Minister Fantino and your government's handling of the veterans portfolio. Let's look at one of them. We had the court case this week, and the court case is a group of veterans who are challenging the Veterans Charter, saying that the lump sum payments under the Veterans Charter just aren't working and they're discriminatory. You have 14 recommendations that were made by a parliamentary committee, all-party recommendations to improve on how to improve the Veterans Charter. Are we going to see some action on those recommendations?
Yes, Martin. We've moved on 4 already, and we're committed to moving on the report. You look at the most important of them, and as someone that served in the military, I've seen this in the old system and the new system. The biggest gap for veterans was usually when they released from the Canadian Forces. We made a change to say that a veteran will not be released from the forces until their medical situation is stabilized and until they have familiarity with how the Veterans Affairs system works and introduction to a caseworker. That has been the major gap where somebody is released. They may not know what extent of medical support they need until they're a civilian, and they don't know how to access Veterans Affairs. So we've moved already on that one, on some support for families and mental health. And the minister asked for this review of the Liberal new Veteran Charter so we can continue to improve it.
What about revelations at the end of the week? Not surprising, really. We knew that senior administrators in different departments were being given bonuses for cutting money, but a lot of bonuses have been given out in Veterans Affairs for not spending money on veterans. And this sort of ties in with the money that had lapsed as well. How do you respond to that? I mean, how can a Veterans Affairs minister be proud of not spending money and giving bonuses for not spending money to veterans?
Well, the public sector employees and at the senior levels have agreements on all departments on performance and that sort of thing, Martin. So Veterans Affairs is no different than others. What I'd like to see actually in the future is if departments aren't meeting objectives, like some of those identified by the Auditor General, that the reverse would be true, that the officials would be penalized, or not access the bonuses. We've got to make sure that these things apply on all departments. But if we're trying to meet performance measures, and that's why we asked the Auditor General to assess how our new investments in mental health were doing. Were they getting to veterans fast enough? On the vocational side and retraining they were, but on the access to disability benefits they were falling short. We need to do better, and the department needs to be part of that.
Peter Julian, this is, I don't know, week after week, the criticism of the minister and that portfolio continues. How long can you keep this up? I mean, Parliament's going to rise next week. Is this going to be your biggest battle horse in terms of the Veterans Affairs?
Oh, it's a major issue, there's no doubt, Martin. But when you look at how veterans are reacting across the country, I've had veterans come up to me, and certainly at the Remembrance Day ceremony, I had a lot of chance at my local Legion and at the Remembrance Day ceremonies to talk with veterans. They are incensed by the mistreatment by this government of veterans. And you said it, I mean, we're giving, this Conservative government is giving bonuses for the cutbacks in services, the cutbacks in offices, the stealing of $1 billion that was approved by Parliament for veterans. And that money should have been used. Half of the veterans who have disabilities can't access a disability pension. You've got homeless veterans. You've got veterans that are waiting months and months for fundamental support for mental health issues and addiction issues. There's been appalling treatment by this government, and the only thing they've done that they seem to be bragging about or boasting about is the executive bonuses they gave for cutting 1,000 frontline staff that serve veterans and closing 9 offices that also serve veterans. So it is an appalling mess. It's been a decade of darkness for veterans, there's no doubt, but the last year has been particularly egregious for veterans, and this issue is not going away because the veterans themselves want Canadians to speak out against the actions of this government that have had such a harmful impact on veterans.
Wayne Easter, you're from PEI, obviously Veterans Affairs. I mean, the head office or the big offices are in PEI in Charlottetown there. Is this an issue that just continues to dog the government, or is it an issue that there are improvements being made? There are, for example, operational stress centers being opened up. There are more psychiatrists and psychologists being hired. There is progress being made.
I think, Martin, the progress that is being made is very much too little and too late. I think what you're seeing here is a lack of ministerial accountability and responsibility. The ministers accepted no responsibility. It's been well outlined the fact that money was lapsed, direly needed by veterans. The 9 offices that were closed, and then the bonuses to management for having clearly managed ineffectively in terms of looking after the needs of veterans. So whatever happened to ministerial responsibility and accountability, but even worse, when we've seen the Prime Minister himself is now ultimately responsible. 1, he didn't fire the minister. 2, he basically defended the minister and supported him. How could the Prime Minister support this kind of lack of management within one of his mainline departments? That's really sad. So I think what we're seeing here is, yes, the issue may carry on for a little while, but Fantino, if he's not going to resign on his own, he'll have to go. Will there be a shuffle over the Christmas period? I don't know. A couple of frontline ministers really got it last week, and rightly so. Minister Gluckuk and Minister Fantino, they both should be gone.
Okay, Aaron O'Toole, last week when we spoke, the controversy was just starting to swirl around another minister, and Wayne Easter alludes to Minister Gluckuk, Minister of the Environment, but also Minister responsible for the North, Regional Minister of the North. When we spoke last week, it was a controversy swirling around her response to Northern Nutrition, or Nutrition North, the program. Since then, she's apologized for reading the newspaper during question period when hunger in the North was being debated and discussed, and she was sitting reading a newspaper. She's apologized for that. Do things end there, or is she still going to be facing questions about Nutrition North?
Well, what we saw last week, Martin, was what I thought was a shameful display by the opposition, where the Nutrition North program is about healthy food getting to the North. The minister's been trying to increase that, lower prices for families. The Auditor General said some improvements needed, but that's the program. The stories and the mischaracterizations of the minister's involvement and the stories about the dumps was not true. It was below the level of what should have been discussed for this program. And I think she apologized because I saw sitting near her, she was reading the paper because the heckling and some of the calls were really shameful, and they were bothering her. She's a champion from the North. She's from there. She is served in the territorial level of government. She's been the first Inuit female cabinet minister in senior roles. The reality is the North has never had a stronger champion. She apologized for that, but at the end of the day, people are human, and the heckling, mainly by the NDP, was, I thought, pretty shameful.
Balderdash, Martin. She came into the House, walked down, opened her newspaper, refused to answer questions. I mean, the Conservative spin on this is absolutely appalling. Here we have people who have to scavenge in garbage dumps to get food because of the ineptitude of this government in managing Nutrition North. They spent lots of money, but they have no idea where that money went. The Auditor General called them on it. And then the minister, instead of responding responsibly in responding to the communities that she's supposed to represent in the House of Commons, she threatened the deputy mayor. This particular community where people are in having to go scavenge in garbage dumps, and then refused to answer questions in the House of Commons. Came in a very aggressive way, opened her newspaper, and basically said, "I'm not going to answer any questions on this." It was very, very unfortunate. I'm glad she's apologized because it was absolutely inappropriate conduct. But the government has to start treating the citizens of the North in a responsible way, and actually put into place a Nutrition North program that actually allows them to reduce catastrophically high food costs. I mean, we're seeing housing in the north that this government has taken no action on, meaning in some cases you've got a family of 20 people living in a one-room apartment, often in very bad shape, and then you've got the pressure of the food prices that Nutrition North is doing very little to relieve. So this government has to stop doing photo ops in the north and actually has to start treating northern residents responsibly and putting in place programs that actually help them.
Okay, Wayne Easter, we're running out of time. I'd just like to get your thoughts on Leona Gluckuk. She did apologize for that newspaper incident.
Look, you have to accept the apology, and I would say the apology was sincere. Peter outlined the issues related to the north that the minister is responsible for, that she hasn't acted on. But I think if there's any minister in the whole of government that shows what a period in government does, and being a minister in government has certainly done to this woman, and that is the arrogance and the condescending attitude that she's taking on is really unbelievable. Yes, she comes from the north. Yes, she's Inuit. But she seemed to have lost touch with the area that she's come, and she's been very irresponsible as a minister. And as I said in previous remarks, she's one of the ones that has to go.
Okay, well, on that note, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to thank all three of you for taking the time. If we do not speak before the House rises next Thursday, I want to thank you, and I want to wish you a happy and productive holiday season.
To you as well.
Thanks, Martin. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.